In 1961, Alabama was a place filled with tension and hope, where voices rose for change and justice. Among those eager for a better future was an 8-year-old girl named Delilah Monroe. Though she was young, Delilah had already learned about the struggles faced by her family and neighbors. Her parents were strong supporters of the civil rights movement, believing that everyone deserved to be treated fairly, no matter the color of their skin. Delilah often listened to her mother and father discuss their dreams of equality and freedom. They would speak passionately about the marches they attended and the people they met, brave men and women fighting for their rights. Delilah admired them deeply and felt proud of her family's commitment to the cause. She understood that this fight was not just theirs. It was for everyone who had been mistreated or ignored. However, Delilah's world turned upside down on that fateful night when chaos erupted outside their church. The air was thick with fear as she heard loud voices demanding change. But tonight those voices felt different, more intense. They felt frightening. Earlier that evening, her parents went out, dressed in their best clothes, ready to stand up for justice once again. But things didn't go as planned. With police cars flashing their lights and shouting filling the air, Delilah's heart sank when she learned that her family had been arrested. As the protests continued around the church, Delilah found herself hiding alone in the basement, lost in her thoughts. The dim light and echoes of voices above her made her feel small and vulnerable. She wrapped her arms around her knees, trying to block out the sounds, wishing she could be somewhere safe with her family. Even though she missed them dearly, Delilah remembered what her mother always said. Courage is not the absence of fear, but standing tall despite it. Those words echoed in her mind as she tried to be brave in this scary moment. Little did she know that hope would soon arrive in an unexpected form, someone who would remind her that even in darkness, light could shine through. The night outside the church was unlike any Delilah had ever experienced. It felt as if the very air trembled with uncertainty and fear. The shouts of protesters echoed through the streets, a mix of determination and desperation that swirled around her like a storm. Each loud voice seemed to rise higher than the last, drowning out the usual calm of the night. Delilah could hear the clanging of metal and the thud of heavy boots, along with the anxious murmurs of people who had gathered for what was meant to be a peaceful demonstration. From her hiding spot in the dark basement, she strained her ears to listen. The chaos above made her heart race faster than it ever had before. She could hear angry chants demanding change, rising and falling like waves crashing against the shore. It was powerful and frightening all at once. The sounds of sirens pierced through the shouts, their wailing filling the air with urgency as police cars arrived, lights flashing ominously in the distance. Delilah hugged her knees tightly, trying to find some comfort in her smallness amidst all that noise. As she pressed her back against the cold wall of the basement, she imagined the scene unfolding above, people standing up for their rights, facing off with those who wanted to silence them. But all she could think about were her parents, who had stepped out earlier that evening to join those brave souls. Would they be okay? The uncertainty gnawed at her as shadows danced on the walls in sync with her trembling heart. The sound of shouting grew louder, more threatening. Delilah felt as if she were trapped in a nightmare where every noise magnified her fear. She closed her eyes tightly, wishing she could wake up somewhere safe, anywhere but here. Just then, she remembered her mother's words about courage and strength. Courage is not the absence of fear, she repeated softly to herself, trying to be brave in this dark moment. As the chaos raged outside, little did Delilah know that she was not alone in this fight. Soon someone would enter that basement, and remind her of hope in a way she could never forget. Delilah's small body trembled as she sat in the cold basement, the concrete beneath her unyielding. The noise above felt like a wave crashing over her, leaving her gasping for breath. Each shout and siren sent sharp jolts of fear through her heart. She felt utterly alone and isolated, trapped in a world that had spiraled out of control. Thoughts raced through her mind like startled rabbits. She couldn't focus on just one. Where were her parents? Were they safe? Did they know where she was hiding? The darkness of the basement closed in around her, and she hugged her knees tighter to her chest, trying to feel less vulnerable. Shadows danced along the walls, their shapes flickering with every loud noise from outside. Delilah imagined each shadow was a reminder of her fear, stretching and twisting into frightening figures. She wished she could make them disappear as easily as she could close her eyes, but the reality of the situation pressed heavy on her heart. The shouts of protesters intermingled with the harsh sounds of police sirens above, creating a chaotic symphony that filled Delilah with dread. Each time she heard the clang of metal against metal or the thud of boots stomping nearby, it felt like a reminder that her world was chaotic, and she was powerless to change it. The weight of isolation settled over her like a thick blanket, stifling and suffocating. Thoughts of her family flooded her mind, their laughter at dinner, the warmth of hugs that made everything feel right. Now, all those comforting moments seemed like distant memories. She longed to feel that safety again, to be wrapped in their love rather than surrounded by uncertainty. Delilah's mind wandered to the conversations they had shared about bravery and hope. Her mother's kind voice echoed in her head. Even in your darkest moments, you must remember that you are never truly alone. But at that moment, it felt as if loneliness was all-consuming. With tears brimming in her eyes, she whispered softly to herself the words of encouragement from her mother. Courage is not the absence of fear. Those words offered a flicker of light in her dark thoughts as she clung desperately to the hope that someone would come for her, someone who would remind her that even in despair, there is a path back to courage and love. Just when the weight of fear felt too heavy to bear, the sound of the basement door creaking open pierced through the chaos above. Delilah's heart raced as she turned toward the light that poured in, casting a warm glow against the cold concrete walls. Standing in the doorway was none other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a figure she had heard about in her parents' conversations but never imagined would be standing before her. Dr. King entered the basement with a calmness that seemed to still the very air around him. His presence radiated strength, and for a moment, the noise of the protests outside faded into a distant murmur. He stepped forward, his eyes scanning the dimly lit space until they landed on Delilah curled up in her corner. A gentle smile graced his face, and he knelt down beside her, bringing himself to her level. "Hello there," he said softly, his voice warm and reassuring. "You must be feeling quite scared." Delilah nodded, unable to find her voice at first. The sight of him brought a sense of peace she didn't know she needed. Dr. King looked around the basement, acknowledging the darkness that surrounded them. "It's all right to feel afraid," he continued, "but remember that fear is not something we have to face alone." His words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. In that moment, Delilah felt a spark of hope igniting within her. As he spoke, Delilah noticed how Dr. King remained composed despite the chaos still unfolding outside. His determination shone through every word as he encouraged courage and resilience. He shared stories of brave individuals who had faced similar fears, reminding her that standing up for what is right often requires great bravery. Delilah listened intently, hanging on to his every word as if they were lifelines thrown into her sea of uncertainty. She could see that Dr. King believed deeply in the mission for justice and equality, and this belief seemed to flow from him like a bright light piercing through the darkness. At that moment, Delilah realized she was not just an isolated girl hiding in a basement. She was part of something much greater, a movement filled with hope and promise. With Dr. King beside her, she began to feel that fear could be transformed into strength, just as courage could bloom even in the darkest places. Dr. King knelt down beside Delilah, his eyes warm and understanding. The dim light of the basement illuminated his kind face, and she felt a flicker of safety in his presence. "You're not alone, Delilah," he said gently, his voice soothing like a soft breeze on a hot day. "I know this feels very scary right now, but I promise you, fear does not have to control us." Delilah glanced up at him, her heart racing between the comfort of his words and the chaos outside. "What if something happens to my family?" she whispered, her voice trembling as tears began to brim in her eyes. Dr. King met her gaze with a steady look that conveyed both compassion and strength. "It's okay to be worried about them," he replied softly. "But remember that many people are fighting for what is right tonight, including your parents." As he spoke, Delilah listened intently, hanging on every word like it was a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Your parents have courage, he continued. They stand for justice because they believe everyone deserves to be treated equally. It takes bravery to stand up for what is right, even when it's hard. Delilah felt a warmth spreading through her chest as Dr. King's words wrapped around her like a comforting hug. She could see the truth in his eyes, a belief that hope could shine through even the darkest times. What can I do? She asked, feeling a spark of determination rising within her. Dr. King smiled gently and leaned in closer so she could hear him better amidst the distant shouting outside. You can be brave right here, in this moment, he said firmly yet kindly. Courage starts with believing in yourself and knowing that your feelings matter. He paused for a moment, allowing his words to sink in. Fear is natural, he added thoughtfully, but don't let it keep you from shining your light. Delilah nodded slowly as she absorbed his message, the idea that even in fear and uncertainty, she had the power to be strong. Remember, Dr. King said as he stood up slowly, you are part of something much bigger than yourself, something powerful. As he turned to leave, Delilah felt a newfound strength blooming within her heart, ready to face whatever came next with courage and hope ignited by their conversation. As Delilah sat in the dimly lit basement, Dr. King's presence felt like a steady anchor amidst the storm of fears swirling around her. He looked deeply into her eyes, conveying warmth and strength. Delilah, he began, his voice steady yet gentle. Courage is something we all must gather, especially in times like these. The passion in his words filled the room with a sense of purpose. You see, he continued, hope can be found even in the darkest moments. Just as night gives way to dawn, our struggles today are paving the way for a brighter future. With every phrase, Dr. King painted vivid pictures of resilience and strength that resonated deeply within her heart. Your feelings are important, he said firmly, bringing a reassuring hand to rest on her shoulder. It's okay to be afraid. But remember, when you feel fear, you also have the power to choose bravery. The imagery of light breaking through darkness seemed to illuminate Delilah's spirit. She felt enchanted by his words, each one weaving a tapestry of hope that wrapped around her. Dr. King's commitment to justice inspired every word he spoke. There will be times when it feels impossible, he shared earnestly. But when we stand together for what is right, we create waves of change that cannot be ignored. Your voice matters just as much as anyone else's. His conviction echoed like a powerful drumbeat against the backdrop of uncertainty outside. Delilah absorbed his message hungrily like a parched plant yearning for rain. In that moment, she realized she could carry this message of hope forward, not just for herself but also for others who might be scared just like she was tonight. With every promise of possibility he shared, Dr. King instilled within her a sense of purpose and strength. Remember this, he concluded softly but firmly. The journey toward justice requires empathy and love. It begins with individuals like you choosing to believe in themselves. As Dr. King prepared to leave the basement, Delilah felt a shift within her, a newfound bravery blooming like a flower reaching toward sunlight after darkness. His words would not only resonate within her heart, they would ripple outward into her life and inspire others along the way, words filled with hope that would later echo into speeches that called others to action in their fight for equality and justice. The encounter with Dr. King had an everlasting impact on Delilah's life, shaping her into a beacon of courage and purpose from a young age. As she grew older, the memory of that night became a source of strength for her. Whenever she faced challenges, whether in school, friendships, or even in standing up for what was right, she recalled his gentle voice reminding her that fear could be transformed into bravery. Delilah became an eager learner, diving into books about the civil rights movement and the powerful figures who fought for justice. She discovered that Dr. King's words were not just comforting phrases, they were part of a larger call to action. Inspired by his teachings, she attended rallies and community meetings, where she shared the stories of her own experience in that church basement. Her narrative resonated with many, encouraging others to find their voices amidst fear. With each passing year, Delilah held on to Dr. King's message about hope and resilience. She learned that true courage was not the absence of fear but the willingness to act despite it. In high school, she organized events to raise awareness about social issues, bringing together students from all backgrounds to discuss equality and justice. Her determination sparked conversations that spread throughout her community, igniting a passion for activism among her peers. As Delilah continued her education, she chose to study social justice and law, driven by the desire to continue the work that Dr. King had dedicated his life to. She knew that change was a gradual process, but she believed deeply in the power of collective action. Whenever she felt discouraged, she would revisit the words Dr. King had shared with her during their brief encounter, words that reminded her of her place in the ongoing struggle for justice. In adulthood, Delilah became a teacher, hoping to inspire the next generation with the same hope and strength Dr. King had instilled in her. She shared his teachings with her students, encouraging them to embrace their fears and use their voices for change. His message became woven into her lessons, reminding them that they could make a difference and that every small act of courage contributes to a larger movement. Years later, during speeches and community gatherings, Delilah would often reflect on that fateful night in 1961 when a figure like Dr. King entered her life and changed it forever. She understood now that his words were not just meant for her but were a call to everyone, an everlasting reminder that hope and courage can illuminate even the darkest paths. Delilah's story exemplifies the profound impact of small moments in the larger tapestry of the civil rights movement. On that tense night in 1961, when fear and chaos threatened to swallow her whole, a brief encounter with Dr. King ignited a flame of hope within her that would burn brightly throughout her life. His gentle words did more than comfort her. They became a cornerstone of her identity and purpose as she grew up. In a world often overshadowed by despair, Delilah learned that even the smallest act, like sharing a story or offering encouragement, could resonate with others and inspire change. This revelation became her guiding principle, leading her to remind students and community members alike that everyone has the power to influence the course of history, no matter how young or small they may feel. As Delilah shared Dr. King's message in classrooms and rallies, she witnessed firsthand the rippling effect of hope. Students who were once silent began to speak out, fueled by the belief that their voices mattered. The courage she had discovered in herself became infectious, spreading through her community like wildfire. The lessons she imparted emphasized that activism could bloom in unexpected places, often ignited by heartfelt conversations or simple acts of kindness. Delilah's journey underscores an essential truth: in difficult times, hope is not merely an abstract concept but a tangible, living force that can be cultivated. Each individual, regardless of age or background, has the power to shape their narrative and contribute to the collective fight for justice. Her life is a testament to the idea that every action, no matter how seemingly small, can create lasting change. Reflecting on her own experiences, Delilah understood that it was not only Dr. King's powerful speeches that inspired movements, but also the quieter moments, the connections made between individuals seeking solace and reassurance amidst turmoil. In sharing her journey, she encouraged others to believe that they too could find strength in vulnerability and resilience in fear. Ultimately, Delilah Monroe's story serves as a beacon of courage for future generations, reminding them that hope can shine through even the darkest nights. With each voice raised in pursuit of justice, each act of kindness extended, they continue to weave together a legacy of courage and determination that will endure for years to come.